The awakening, the silence was heavy, pressing against her ears like a thick blanket. She opened her eyes slowly, but the world around her was only darkness. A faint hum came from the walls, cold and metallic. The air was stale, carrying the smell of rust and burned wires. Her body trembled as she tried to sit up, her limbs weak as if they had forgotten how to move. She touched her stomach and froze. A sharp wave of fear cut through her chest. Her belly was swollen, unnatural. She gasped, her mind struggling to remember. Who had done this to her? Why was she here? Nothing made sense. Only fragments of memory, shadows and pain. Her breathing grew faster, the darkness closing in like a living thing. She stumbled to her feet, her bare feet hitting the cold floor. She reached out, her hands brushing against walls that felt smooth, curved, almost like a cage. A whisper escaped her lips, a single word. Help. A sudden flicker of light startled her. On the far side of the chamber, a small console sparked weakly. The glow was dim but enough to show her reflection in the metallic wall. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with terror. Her hair clung to her damp skin. She looked like a prisoner, a broken soul left to rot in the dark. Her hands shook as she moved toward the console. Each step echoed through the silent chamber. She pressed buttons blindly, her fingers slipping. For a moment nothing happened. Then a crackling sound filled the air, a signal trying to form. She leaned closer, her voice trembling. Please, someone, hear me. The console hissed with static. The screen flickered with broken symbols she could not read. But the signal was there. A weak pulse of light beamed upward, escaping into the void. She had sent an SOS. Her heart pounded. She collapsed to her knees beside the console, tears running down her face. Would anyone hear her? Would anyone care? For all she knew, the universe had forgotten her, left her here as a vessel for something she never asked for. Her mind wandered back to the last thing she remembered before the darkness. She had been in a place filled with bright lights, cold hands, and voices speaking a language she could not understand. Then pain, then nothing. She had woken in this prison, trapped and pregnant. She wrapped her arms around herself, rocking slightly. The unborn child inside her moved, a faint stir. It sent shivers down her spine. Was it even a child, or was it something else, something unnatural? Her body was no longer her own. The silence deepened again, broken only by the faint hum of machines hidden in the walls. She thought she heard a sound, a distant echo from the tunnels beyond, or maybe it was her mind playing tricks. She whispered again, her voice small and fragile. Please, help me. The darkness gave no answer. Time stretched endlessly. She could not tell if minutes passed or hours. Hunger clawed at her stomach. Thirst dried her lips. Her legs weakened, and she sank back to the floor, her eyes never leaving the faint glow of the console. Every blink of the light was hope, fragile but alive, somewhere out there. Maybe, just maybe, someone was listening. She imagined a figure, a stranger, a rescuer who would hear her desperate call. The thought was all she had to fight the crushing loneliness. But deep inside her, fear gnawed at her heart. What if no one came? What if the only ones who found her were the same monsters who had trapped her here? She closed her eyes, tears soaking her cheeks. The chamber seemed to breathe around her, as if watching, waiting. She felt like prey in a cage, and the hunters were near still. She clung to the small light of hope, the faint signal drifting into the endless void, a desperate cry across the stars. Her body trembled again. She wrapped her arms tighter around her swollen belly, whispering, not just for herself, but for the life within, hold on. Someone will come. Someone has to come. The words echoed softly, swallowed by the shadows. She did not know it yet, but far away, a human ear would hear her call, and that moment of hope would change both their destinies forever. Asterisk. The human receiver. The stars stretched endlessly outside the small human outpost ship. A sea of cold fire against the black void. Inside the control room, Lieutenant Marcus Hawley leaned back in his chair. Eyes heavy from another long night of silence, his ship floated on the edge of nowhere, a forgotten guard post at the edge of the Orion Belt. For weeks nothing had happened, no ships passing, no signals worth noting. Only the endless hum of machines and the lonely sound of his own breathing. He had grown used to the silence, the emptiness. The galaxy was vast, and he was just one man stationed at its edge. Then, without warning, the quiet broke, a sharp crackle of static burst through his headset. He straightened instantly, eyes wide. The console flickered. Lines of broken code flashing. Marcus leaned closer, turning knobs, adjusting frequencies. At first, it was only static, then a faint sound slipped through. A voice, fragile and trembling. "Please, help me." Marcus froze, his breath caught in his throat. He turned the volume higher. Static hissed. The voice returned. Weak but desperate. "Please. Someone, hear me." The sound sent a shiver down his spine. It was not a human voice. The tone was softer, the syllables stretched, but the emotion was unmistakable fear. He quickly locked the signal, running it through filters. The distress call repeated, breaking through the static again and again. Marcus's heartbeat quickened. Whoever it was, they were alone, terrified, and begging for help. "Where are you?" he whispered to himself, fingers racing over the console. The coordinates came slowly, tracing back to a sector of space no one visited anymore. An abandoned mining colony buried under layers of rock and dust. Official records claimed the colony had been closed decades ago after a collapse. Yet here was a voice, alive and crying in the dark. Protocol said he should report it, forward the signal to command. Let them decide. But Marcus hesitated. He had sent hundreds of reports before, and most were ignored. By the time a response came, whoever was sending this call would already be dead. He leaned back, staring at the blinking red light. The voice came again, faint, broken, but still fighting. "Help me. Please." Marcus clenched his jaw. He could not ignore it. He would not. He pulled up the nav chart, plotting a course toward the old mining colony. His hands moved with purpose, yet doubt lingered in his mind. What if it was a trap? What if pirates were using a fake signal? But deep inside, he knew the truth. That voice was real. The fear in it was real. The engines roared to life, breaking the long silence. The outpost ship turned slowly, heading into the unknown. As the ship moved, Marcus recorded the signal again. He played it back, over and over. Each time, the voice seemed to reach deeper into him, not just a call for help, but a cry for survival. He spoke softly, as if the stranger on the other end could hear him. "Hold on. I'm coming." The journey was long. Hours stretched into what felt like days. Marcus barely slept, his mind locked on the sound of that fragile voice. He replayed it until he could almost picture her, alone in the dark, waiting for someone, anyone to answer. Finally, the colony came into view. A broken husk of metal and stone drifting in silence. The once bustling station was now a grave. Its tunnels gaped open like wounds, debris scattered like bones in the void. Marcus tightened his grip on the controls. A place like this should not be alive. Yet somewhere inside, a faint signal still pulsed. He guided the ship closer, systems scanning the ruins. The console lit up with warnings of unstable structures and strange energy signatures. He ignored them. His eyes stayed on the blinking beacon. He whispered again, "I hear you. You're not alone anymore." As the ship settled near the entrance of the tunnels, Marcus geared up, strapping on armor, checking his rifle. His reflection in the visor stared back at him, weary but determined. He was not a hero, not a soldier of legend. He was just a man who could not let a desperate voice go unanswered. He looked once more at the console. The voice repeated one last time, weak but alive, "Please." Marcus's eyes hardened. He opened the hatch. The cold air of the abandoned colony rushed in, carrying the smell of dust and death. With one step, he entered the darkness. Somewhere inside, she was waiting. Journey into darkness. The tunnels yawned open like the mouth of some ancient beast. swallowing Marcus as he stepped inside. His flashlight cut through the blackness, the beam shaking slightly with each cautious step. The silence was heavy, disturbed only by the crunch of broken stone beneath his boots. The walls around him were not natural. They had been carved, shaped, then abandoned. Rusted pipes dripped foul water, and broken wires sparked weakly in the dark. Old mining equipment lay scattered like the bones of giants. The deeper he went, the colder it became. Marcus adjusted the scanner on his wrist. The faint distress signal still pulsed, leading him deeper into the labyrinth. The voice echoed in his mind, fragile and desperate. Urging him forward, he stopped suddenly, his instincts tightening. Ahead, strange markings covered the walls, not human writing but alien symbols carved deep into the stone. They glowed faintly, as if alive. The sight made his skin crawl. This place was no simple mine. He pressed forward, but unease followed him like a shadow. Every sound seemed too loud. Every flicker of movement in the corner of his eye made him tighten his grip on the rifle. He had been in dangerous places before, but nothing felt like this. The air itself seemed to watch him. Further down, the tunnel split into 3 paths. His scanner flickered uncertainly. The signal was weak, bouncing off the walls. Marcus closed his eyes, steadying his breathing. He listened, and faintly, so faintly, he thought he heard it again. Help! He followed the sound, choosing the left path. The air grew thicker, the walls narrowing until he had to duck and squeeze through jagged openings. His armor scraped stone, the flashlight flickering. For a moment he imagined the tunnel closing behind him, trapping him forever. When he finally emerged into a wider chamber, his light revealed something far worse than rock. Pods, dozens of them, lined the walls, some shattered, some still sealed. Inside were twisted shapes, things that had once been alive, human, alien, and something else entirely. Marcus's chest tightened, his stomach turned. Whatever had happened here was no mining accident. This was a laboratory, a breeding ground, or worse. He forced himself to look away. The signal was stronger now, pulsing like a heartbeat. He knew she was close. He moved quickly, rifle ready. Each corner felt like a trap. Shadows seemed to move just beyond the edge of light. He whispered under his breath, a habit born of solitude. I'm coming. Just hold on. Another corridor led deeper. The smell changed. Metallic mixed with something sweet and rotten. He stepped carefully, his boots leaving prints in dust untouched for decades. Then, suddenly, his light caught movement. A figure slumped against the far wall, small and fragile. Marcus froze, his weapon rising. But then he saw her face, pale and terrified. Her wide eyes blinked against the beam of his flashlight. She was real. The voice that had haunted him for hours belonged to her. She flinched, shielding her face. Her lips moved, trembling. No, no more. Marcus lowered his rifle instantly, pulling off his helmet. His voice was calm, steady. It's okay, I'm human. I heard your call. For a moment, she didn't believe him. Her body shook. Her arms wrapped around her swollen belly. She looked like she expected him to hurt her, to drag her back into the machines. He knelt slowly, hands open to show he meant no harm. From his pack, he pulled a ration bar and a small canteen of water. He placed them on the ground between them, then stepped back. Her eyes darted from him to the food. Hunger and thirst won over fear. Slowly, she reached forward, her hands trembling. She bit into the bar, drank deeply. Tears rolled down her face, but her voice was stronger than before. You came, Marcus nodded, his heart tightening at the sound of her words. I told you, you're not alone anymore. The signal on his scanner pulsed one last time before going silent. She no longer needed to call. He had found her, but as he looked around the chamber, at the broken pods and the unnatural symbols carved into the walls, Marcus knew this was only the beginning. The colony was not abandoned, not truly. Something had been here. Something had built this place, and it might still be watching. He glanced back at her, at the fear still etched in her eyes, and made a silent promise, no matter what waited in The dark, he would protect her, because humanity did not walk away from a cry for help. First contact. The chamber was cold. The light from Marcus's helmet flickering across broken walls and shattered pods. He kept his hands low, careful not to make sudden moves. The alien girl sat pressed against the wall. Her eyes wide, her breathing shallow. She looked like a cornered animal, ready to bolt, though there was nowhere to run. Her skin was pale, glowing faintly under the light. Her hair hung in tangled strands, and her arms clutched her swollen belly. Protectively, Marcus could see the fear in her face, but he also saw something else: exhaustion. The kind that came from fighting too long without hope. He spoke softly, his voice steady. "I'm not here to hurt you. I heard your call. I came to help." She flinched at the sound of his words. Her lips parted as if to speak, but no voice came out, only a trembling breath. Her eyes darted to the food and water he had placed on the ground, then back to him, suspicion still burning in her gaze. Marcus stayed where he was, kneeling with his rifle set aside. He knew trust could not be forced, especially here. He waited, patient, letting silence fill the space between them. Finally, hunger pushed her forward. She reached for the canteen. Her hands shaking, she drank quickly, as though afraid it would be taken away. The water dripped down her chin. She coughed softly, then whispered in a broken voice, "Why? Why come?" Marcus tilted his head, surprised she could speak some human tongue. Her voice was strange, each word heavy with an accent that stretched the syllables, but the meaning was clear. "Because you asked," he said simply. Her eyes narrowed, confused by the answer. No one had ever come for her before. She had cried for help in the past, but only shadows had answered. Now here was this human, dressed in strange armor, offering food, water, and words instead of chains. Still, doubt lingered. She studied him closely. Her mind whispered cruel reminders. The last beings who touched her had strapped her to tables, filled her veins with fire, forced her body to carry something she did not choose. Why should this man be different? Marcus noticed the way she pulled her knees close, the way she kept her back to the wall. He softened his tone further. "You don't have to trust me now, but I won't leave you. Not here, not like this." Her lips trembled. She wanted to believe him, but fear was stronger. Her body shook with weakness. She tried to stand but stumbled. Marcus instinctively reached out. She froze, staring at his hand. Every instinct screamed at her to recoil, to scream, to fight. But when his hand touched her arm, it was gentle, warm, steady, not the cold grip of her captors. Slowly, he helped her sit up. His presence felt solid, unshakable. "You're safe," he whispered, though he wasn't sure it was true. Her gaze softened slightly. Her voice was faint. "Safe. With human." As though testing the idea, Marcus nodded. "Yes, with me." For the first time, her shoulders relaxed, just a little. She held the ration bar with both hands, eating slowly now. Her eyes never left him, studying every move, every breath, searching for lies, but all she saw was calm determination. Minutes passed. The silence broken only by the sound of her chewing and the distant hum of machines buried in the walls. Marcus scanned the chamber again. His instincts told him this place was not empty. Something had built it. Something had left its mark, and maybe it was still here, watching. He turned back to her. "What's your name?" She hesitated, as if the word itself had been stolen from her long ago. Then she whispered, "Layara." The name hung in the cold air, fragile but alive. Marcus repeated it softly. "Layara." Her eyes widened at the sound. No one had spoken her name with kindness in so long. For the first time since he had found her, she did not look like prey. She looked like someone remembered, someone seen, but the moment of fragile peace was shattered when the ground beneath them trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. The broken machines around them hummed as though awakening. Marcus grabbed his rifle, his voice sharp but calm. "Stay behind me." Liara's heart pounded. She had thought her prison was dead, abandoned. But the walls themselves seemed to stir. Somewhere in the tunnels, Heavy footsteps echoed. Marcus positioned himself between her and the sound. His eyes narrowed. His mission had just changed. It was no longer just about answering a distress call. It was about survival. And as the shadows shifted deeper in the tunnels, he made his silent vow. Again, he would protect her, no matter what. The horrifying truth, the rumble faded, leaving only silence again. But it was not the same silence as before. This one felt alive, watching, waiting. Marcus tightened his grip on the rifle as he scanned the shadows. Liara pressed closer to the wall, her trembling hands clutching her swollen stomach. He knew they could not stay in that chamber. He gestured softly. "Come with me." His voice was steady, giving her strength. Together they moved deeper into the tunnels, Marcus leading. With the rifle raised, Liara following carefully, each step echoing in the stone halls. The scanner on his wrist flickered, showing faint energy signatures ahead. The further they walked, the stronger it became. Marcus felt his chest tighten. Something was here. The tunnel widened into another chamber. Larger than the last, his flashlight swept across the room and froze. His breath caught in his throat. Pods, rows of them, far more than before, lined against the walls like coffins. Each one pulsed faintly with a sickly green glow. Inside were shapes, some alien, some disturbingly human, their bodies twisted, fused with machinery, tubes snaking into their veins, their eyes closed as if trapped in endless sleep. Liara gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. She backed away, shaking her head. Her voice broke. "No. No more." Marcus moved closer, studying the pods. His stomach turned. These were not miners. They were test subjects, prisoners, victims. His light caught the words scratched into the metal near one pod, claw marks, deep and frantic, as if someone had tried to escape with their bare hands. A console stood at the center of the room. Its screen cracked but still alive. Marcus tapped it. Lines of alien code scrolled, shifting into fragments of human text through his translator. His eyes narrowed as he read. Project hybridization, phase 3. Subject viability, unstable. Host rejection rate, 90%. Proceed with forced implantation. Marcus's jaw tightened. His mind raced. Liara wasn't just a prisoner. She had been chosen, used as a vessel. Her pregnancy wasn't natural, it was forced. Engineered. Liara staggered to one of the pods. Her hands touched the glass. Inside was a figure that looked almost like her. But wrong. Its skin gray, its body too thin, its eyes opened suddenly, glowing faintly before rolling back into its skull. She screamed and stumbled back into Marcus. He caught her, steadying her, his voice hard. "Don't look. It's not your fault. None of this is your fault." Her tears spilled freely. Her voice was broken. They put it inside me. I begged them to stop, but they..." She choked, unable to finish. Her body shook violently. Marcus felt rage burn inside him. Whoever had built this place had treated her like nothing more than a tool. He clenched his fists, swearing silently that they would never touch her again. Suddenly, the machines in the chamber hummed louder. The pods flickered with light, one after another. The twisted shapes inside twitched, their bodies shifting unnaturally. Something was waking them. Marcus raised his rifle. "We need to move now," Liara nodded weakly, still clutching her stomach. Her legs wobbled, but Marcus supported her as they backed toward the tunnel. As they turned, the console crackled with sound. A distorted voice filled the chamber, cold and mechanical. "Subject 47, containment breach, retrieval in progress." Liara froze, her eyes wide with terror. "That's me." "They're coming." Marcus pulled her close, his voice sharp and firm. "Then we'll make sure they never take you back." Behind them, the pods hissed, releasing foul steam. The twisted forms inside began to stir, some pressed against the glass, their faces blank, their eyes glowing faintly. Others banged weakly, their claws scraping. The sound echoed through the chamber like a nightmare. Marcus fired a burst into one of the pods. Shards of glass and foul liquid sprayed across the floor. The figure inside collapsed, twitching before going still. The others reacted, their movements growing faster. He didn't wait to see more. He grabbed Lyra's hand and pulled her into the tunnel. His boots pounded the ground. The scanner on his wrist blared with warnings. Whatever controlled this place had activated. Lyra stumbled, her voice breaking. "We can't escape. They'll find us. They always find us." Marcus stopped, gripping her shoulders. His eyes burned with determination. "Not this time. Not while I'm here. You hear me?" She stared at him, tears streaming. For the first time she believed him. His voice wasn't just words, it was a promise. The ground shook again. The walls trembled as if something massive was moving in the distance. Metal groaned, lights flickered, the colony was waking up. Marcus steadied his rifle, his heart pounding. Whatever this place truly was, he now understood the horrifying truth. Lyra wasn't just a victim of cruelty. She was evidence of something monstrous. Something that wanted to use her unborn child as a weapon, and he would not let that happen. Escape and pursuit. The ground shook beneath their feet as Marcus pulled Lyra through the narrow tunnel. The air was heavy with dust and the stench of chemicals leaking from broken pipes behind them. The hiss of opening pods grew louder, followed by inhuman cries that echoed through the darkness. Lyra stumbled, clutching her swollen stomach. Her breaths came in sharp gasps. Marcus tightened his grip on her arm, steadying her. His voice was firm. "Stay with me. Don't stop, no matter what." The scanner on his wrist blared with warnings. Dots appeared on the display, moving quickly toward their position. Marcus cursed under his breath. The facility had released its hunters. From the shadows behind them came the sound of metal claws scraping against stone. A distorted screech pierced the air. Lyra froze, terror flooding her eyes. Marcus turned, raising his rifle. His flashlight beam caught the first of the creatures. It was tall, thin, its skin gray and stretched, tubes still hanging from its body like broken chains. Its eyes glowed faintly with sick light. Its mouth opened in a soundless scream as it charged. Marcus fired a burst. Bullets tore into its chest. Black fluid spraying across the walls. The creature collapsed but twitched violently, crawling forward even as it died. More shadows moved behind it. Marcus grabbed Lyra again, dragging her forward. "Go now." They ran, their footsteps echoing in the collapsing tunnels. Pipes burst above them, sending sparks and steam into the air. Lyra stumbled again, but Marcus caught her, lifting her onto his shoulder despite the weight. She gasped in surprise but clung tightly. The tunnel ahead opened into another chamber, but this one was worse. The walls were lined with machinery still active, glowing faintly with alien power. Strange cables hung like vines, humming with energy. The floor trembled as heavy footsteps echoed closer from behind. More creatures poured into the tunnel, their twisted forms jerking unnaturally. Some crawled on all fours. Others moved upright with frightening speed. Marcus set Lyra down gently behind a piece of broken machinery. His eyes locked on hers. "Stay low. Don't move until I say." She nodded weakly, though fear still gripped her. Marcus turned and fired again. His rifle roared, muzzle flash lighting the chamber. Creatures fell one by one, but more kept coming. Their bodies were weak but relentless, crawling over their fallen like waves of hunger. One leapt from the shadows, claws reaching for Marcus. He ducked and slammed the butt of his rifle into its skull. Cracking bone, another lunged, and he fired point blank. The shot echoed like thunder. Lyra watched from her hiding place, her hands gripping her stomach, her eyes wide with both terror and something new hope. She had never seen anyone fight for her before, never seen such defiance in the face of the creatures. Marcus shouted over the noise. "Move, we can't stay here." He grabbed Lyra again, pulling her toward a staircase carved into the stone. The steps were cracked, half collapsed, but they led upward, toward the faintest trace of air that smelled less stale. They climbed, the sound of pursuit behind them. Creatures screeched and clawed at the walls. The staircase shook as the swarm followed, Marcus fired down the steps, his bullets sparking against stone. Bodies tumbled, but the horde pressed on. At the top, a metal door blocked their way. Marcus slammed into it, shoulder first. It rattled but held. He cursed, setting Liara down. "Hold on." He pulled a charge from his pack, setting it against the lock. A flash of light, a deafening crack. The door burst open. Metal shards flew. Marcus shielded Liara with his body. Beyond the door was another tunnel, narrower but leading upward. The faint glow of daylight seeped through cracks in the ceiling. Hope surged in Marcus's chest. They were close, but the ground shook violently. A roar echoed through the tunnels, deeper, louder, not from the swarm, but from something far worse. Marcus's blood ran cold. This was not just the creations waking. This was their master. Liara's voice broke in fear. "It's coming, the one who made me, the one who made them." Marcus gritted his teeth. Pulling her into the tunnel. Then we run faster. Behind them, the swarm howled, their claws tearing through stone as they pursued. The roar grew louder, shaking dust from the ceiling. Marcus fired blindly into the darkness. Buying them seconds, nothing more. Liara stumbled but kept going. Her hand gripping Marcus's arm, her breath ragged, her eyes filled with terror and determination. For the first time, she wanted to live, truly live, not just survive. As they climbed higher, Marcus looked back one last time. The shadows shifted. And for a moment he saw it, a massive shape moving in the dark, its glowing eyes burning with cruel intelligence. It was no ordinary creature, it was the mind behind all of this, asterisk. Marcus turned away, his voice hard. "We're not dying here, not today." The tunnel above cracked, light spilling through. Freedom was close. But the nightmare was not done, asterisk humanity's answer. The tunnel cracked above them as Marcus dragged Liara forward. Daylight leaked through the fractures, thin beams of hope cutting into the darkness. But behind them, the roar grew louder. The swarm pressed closer, claws scraping stone, their shrieks rattling the walls. Liara stumbled, nearly falling. Marcus caught her quickly, his voice sharp but calm. "Almost there. Don't give up. Just a little further." She nodded weakly. Her face was pale, her body trembling. Yet her eyes clung to his words like a lifeline. The tunnel widened, opening into a cavern where the ceiling had partly collapsed. Sunlight spilled through the broken stone, blinding after the endless dark. Marcus's heart surged. They were close to the surface. But the roar came again, shaking dust loose from the ceiling. The ground cracked under their feet, and from the shadows behind, a massive shape emerged. It was taller than any creature Marcus had faced, its body a nightmare of flesh and machine, tubes snaking across its limbs, metal fused with bone. Its glowing eyes locked on Liara. Hunger burned in them, not for food, but possession. Liara screamed, falling to her knees. "That's it, the one who made me, the one who put this inside me." She clutched her swollen belly, tears streaming. "It won't let me go." Marcus stepped in front of her, his rifle raised, his voice like steel. "Over my dead body," the creature roared. Shaking the cavern, the swarm poured in behind it, filling the tunnels with screeches. Marcus fired, bullets ripping into the horde, dropping some, but not enough. They crawled over the fallen, their numbers endless. He looked up at the collapsed ceiling, sunlight streaming through. If he could bring it down, maybe they could escape, maybe. He pulled a second charge from his pack, setting the timer. His hands moved fast, practiced. Liara grabbed his arm, her voice panicked. "What are you doing?" Marcus looked into her eyes, steady and calm despite the chaos. "Making sure you get out, that's all that matters." She shook her head violently. "No, you can't, you'll die." He gave her a small smile, tired but genuine. "Then I'll die human. And humans don't abandon those who call for help." Before she could protest, the swarm surged closer. Marcus fired again, covering her. "Run, Liara, run toward the light." Her heart tore in two, but her legs obeyed. She stumbled toward the sunlight, each step heavy. She looked back once. Marcus stood like a wall of fire, his rifle blazing. his voice shouting, "Go!" The massive creature roared. Charging forward, Marcus hit the detonator. The cavern shook violently. Explosions thundered as the ceiling collapsed. Rocks crashed down, crushing the swarm. Sunlight poured in wider, blinding. The massive creature screamed, buried beneath stone. And fire, Liara fell to the ground just beyond the collapse. Coughing, dust choking her lungs, she clawed forward into the daylight. The warmth of the sun touched her skin for the first time in what felt like forever. She turned back, her voice breaking. Marcus, through the smoke and falling stone, she saw him, battered, blood on his armor, but still alive. He limped forward, dragging himself through the chaos. One arm shielded his face as debris rained down. His other hand reached for her. She scrambled toward him, their hands finally meeting. With one last surge of strength, Marcus pulled himself out of the collapsing cavern, the tunnel behind them. Sealed forever, the roar silenced under tons of stone. They collapsed together on the rocky surface, gasping for air. The sun burned bright above. Endless sky stretching far. Liara clutched his arm tightly, tears streaming down her face. "You came for me. No one else did. Only you." Marcus turned his head toward her, his face bruised but his eyes steady. "That's what humans do. We hear a call for help, and we answer." Her lips trembled. She placed her hand on her belly, feeling the faint stir inside. For the first time, she didn't feel only fear. She felt hope. She whispered softly, "If my child lives, it will know your courage, your heart, because you saved us." Marcus closed his eyes, exhausted but alive. The pain in his body was sharp, but it didn't matter. He had kept his promise. Above them, the sky stretched endless, freedom at last. Below them, the horrors of the facility lay buried. For now at least, the nightmare was over. Liara leaned against him, her voice quiet but filled with something new. "The universe forgot me, but humanity remembered." "You remembered," Marcus gave a faint smile, his words almost a whisper. "We always will." The sun warmed them both as silence returned. But it was no longer the silence of fear. It was the silence of survival, of a story that would echo across the stars. And in that silence, one truth remained clear: humanity's answer to despair was always the same: to fight, to endure, to save.